Millions of people in the Horn of Africa are facing starvation again.
The drought has reduced yields from this year's harvest.
For a second year, the country is experiencing a worsening drought after the short rains fell far below expectations.
We started a scheme to build capacity of local staff from Kenya, from Ethiopia, to train them on principles of humanitarian intervention and how to do the job effectively. It's a very difficult job, humanitarian response, let's make no mistake. And we need people with the right skills and the right commitment who can undertake that kind of work.
The entry-level talent development scheme is a one-year program, and through the 1 year you go through an academic element of it and also on-the-job training. We work through various partners who are able to give placement opportunities, so for the trainees to be able to actually see what it means to be placed to an agency and look at it day to day. We also partner with a university in the UK called the Oxford Brookes University for the academic element of the program. Structurally, so we have the first 6 months, which is ideally you get to understand the back office runnings of a response. You know, is it proposal writing? And the second 6 months is where we now send them to the field, so they get a taste of what it means to be at the front line of a response.
It was a very challenging, very informative and very educational, starting from the online courses we took and how to develop proposals and how to write reports and everything in detail in the academics part. The practical experience was on the deployment when I was deployed in in Somali region and also in Gambella. I think it was a very great exposure.
I remember coming in only angled to public health, but then now my perspective for the humanitarian sector has been broadened through the experience of being placed in a country office. I got now this other view of how programs are designed, right from conceptualizing of ideas to forming of projects, then following up the implementation of the same.
I was able to be engage with a lot of departments. I was not only focusing on one thing. It was be it wash, be it health, be it gender or meal. I was multi-purposed, so it has helped me to develop both personally and professionally, and it has been an amazing experience.
It was a new experience to go to the field and actually to meet all the persons, because that's the focus of Helpage International. So for me, that was a really good experience, getting to hear about their needs, getting to understand their vulnerabilities.
Through the training, I've been able to learn a lot of things like proposal writing, program development, monitoring and evaluation, and also logistics and supply chain, something that is completely new.
I was placed in Handicap International. Everything in handicap revolved around disability, so this was a very new concept for me. So my experience was just more of learning new things every day, learning what to, breaking what I believed, all the perceptions I had before, even just generally about disability. So I think my experience, I would say, has been very broad, and it has exposed me to very many different sectors.
When I was tasked with the responsibility of developing monitoring and evaluation tools for data collection in Dadaab refugee camp. So the focal person could not do it, so it was the responsibility was passed to me, and I took up the challenge and I developed tools for the assessment, which was we shifted from the normal paperwork to the mobile platform. So I developed tools using the Kobo Collect platform and the Open Data Kit. And I developed a number of assessments, and I went to train our community staff at the field level on how to use them on their mobile phones, which they took it up positively, and they were so excited to learn a new skill.
I got to play a role in writing 2 different proposals in my organizations, both of which ended up being funded. So that was a boost for me. I feel like actually I can say I'm a proposal writer right now.
We went to South Sudan, and then there was this security issue. There was kind of an attack in our camp where we were. So we were forced to stay in a bunker for I think 2 days with very little food. So between this time, these when I felt like I was really challenged, because you couldn't think past that event. You didn't know what would happen next. So it was very confusing for me, but then I came to realize that this is part of the humanitarian world and it's part of the risk you take for this kind of a career.
I currently work for Medea Somalia. I manage fundraising and also their communications. So about a few months back, I was here, seated just like you, anxious to see what next after the training scheme. And I can tell you that most of the things you have learned, even what some of your land managers have said is true. It's exactly the reality out there.
Our experience is very positive. They were very, very helpful. For one, they were very passionate. They liked what they were doing. That is why, for me, I can recommend the people who are in my organization to anyone to hire.
Currently, as we speak, we're in the middle of the Horn of Africa drought. And a lot of what we're hearing from agencies, we're really, really looking for people as we wait to get funds and we can start our program. So what this program adds is having a ready pool of people who are able to deploy and very, very well trained.
From a HR perspective, of course it would add value because we also have the challenge of getting humanitarian workers who have the necessary skills, the competencies, and once you have a pool, even when you are doing your recruitment, it shortens the process.
We cannot afford any longer to talk about just humanitarian response. We can't afford because the situation has become so sophisticated, so long-term in nature, so intricate that we must talk about more sophisticated responses. And the response has to be a combination between long-term development and short-term emergency.
We don't want to address the same drought, this drought come 2019, the same way. What improvements are we making in the humanitarian field?
Save the Children and the different agencies that have been hosting the graduates have been keen on building national level humanitarian capacity. This will go a long way in strengthening effective humanitarian response, particularly at the local level.
So how do we move forward? So this is what the National Drought Management Authority is working on, and have been working with the institutions to strengthen the human resources capacities on humanitarian field. Dr. Luanga mentioned we are working on a program with humanitarian leadership.
The Humanitarian Leadership Academy works towards achieving this through, first of all, enhancing capacities, especially for entry-level humanitarians, but also ensuring that this is integrated with the development agenda in the country and in the region.
One of the main features and outcomes of the World Humanitarian Summit has been localization agenda. Some of the commitments made in support of this include, among others, that aid must be locally driven. In support of this is the Grand Bargain that commits donors and aid organizations to provide 25% of the global humanitarian funding to local and national responders by 2020, along with more unearmarked money and increased multi-year funding to ensure greater predictability and continuity in humanitarian response, among other commitments. 27 INGOs, some of them are already here in the room, also signed the new Charter for Change, committing to passing 20% of their funding to national NGOs by 2018.
National staff are the foundations, the walls, and the roof of any humanitarian response anywhere in the world. And that's why programs like this are so important, because without competent national staff, we're not going anywhere when we're trying to mitigate the effects of disasters on children.
It's a very interesting experience.
It's been quite a learning journey.
the best opportunity that I took when I took it.